Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
No!
Are we there yet?
Yes!
G'day humans, Chris Stead here. I'm on the road and at the moment I'm driving from Sydney down to the Snowy Mountains to Thredbo specifically. Now this is a drive that I've done at least 30 times in the past, and over recent years done it with my young children. So I'm going to be doing a bit of content over the next, we'll just keep an eye on the channel for some content around Thredbo as a destination. But in this video I just want to give you some tips on that kind of drive from the north down south towards the Snowy Mountains. So I've driven from the north of Sydney and I'm heading down to the Snowy Mountains on the border of Victoria and New South Wales right now to go to Thredbo. So tip number 1, leave early. Now I know that sounds like a little obvious one, but there's a reason for it. And the reason is that the high gear places allow you to hire your gear the day before you actually start paying for it, the hire. So you want to get there in time to be able to go get your hire gear in the morning. You want to get there in time to get your hire gear in the afternoon so that it's ready the next day. Otherwise the next day you're going to get to the mountain, you're going to be all ready to go, and you're going to have to spend 2 hours queuing up trying to get your hire gear. Now we have got the hire gear from Thredbo specifically before, and look, you know what, it's a really good process they've got set up there. It's kind of like a conveyor belt that you go through, but it's still going to take you a good hour and a half to get 5 people fitted, all the boards together, everything like that, right? So we're trying to get, we aim to try and get down there around 4, which is when you can start hiring for the next day. And you got to check, right, because its opening hours are different on specific days. So today's a Sunday, it's open a bit later because a lot of people finish up on a Sunday. It's open till 7, so we've got a bit of time to play with. Other days it closes at 5, so you have to leave earlier to get there in time to do that. And if you get your hire gear from anywhere else, Cooma, Jindabyne, other places, they have different opening hours too, of course, so make sure you check that. Now, of course, being that we're travelling as a family, I did attempt to leave this morning at 7:30, got up at 6, worked at 12:30 last night trying to get ready, and we left at 9:30. But 2 hours late is actually pretty good for a family, so fingers crossed we get there in time. All right, now for tip number 2. Have a look in the back here. 3 kids on headphones. Now, if you're ever been travelling with kids before, don't even bother to try and keep them off screens, don't even attempt to think that you're giving them too much screen time and turning their eyes square and all that type of stuff. It's just not worth it. They're going to go down, they're going to do a whole week's worth of activity and physical exercise. Shut them up, put headphones on, you can do whatever you want, listen to a podcast, talk to your wife, to your partner, and they're just plugged in and they're not fighting with each other and you won't crash on the way there. So that is a huge hot tip for me. Headphones on all the kids. Get splitters if you need to, and you can have one kid and one device and 2 kids listening and watching it. All right, tip number 3. Make sure you do fuel check. Now, if you're not familiar with fuel check, you should be. It's a app that allows you to check the petrol anywhere in New South Wales, and basically you start your trip, you look at fuel check, you start to determine kind of whereabouts the cheapest fuel is going to be on your journey, because this, no matter where you're coming from, you're probably going to burn through at least a tank, if not 2 tanks worth of fuel. Now, when we left Sydney, it was $2.10 a litre in a local petrol station. We used fuel check. We've discovered that it's $1.75 in Goulburn. So that's a 35 or whatever it is cents difference. It's going to really add up. So we're going to go stop there on the way through. Now, if you're not familiar with the 7-Eleven app, that's particularly awesome, because the 7-Eleven app allows you to do a fuel lock, which means that whenever you are anywhere, you can just do a search on the My 7-Eleven app, and it will check to see whether or not where the cheapest 7-Eleven within 5 service stations of you is, and then we'll lock that price in for a week to use in any 7-Eleven. And I can't believe how many people don't know this. So that means that if we looked on fuel check, we worked out where the cheapest 7-Eleven was that we were driving past. As we drove past it, we fuel locked it. We're going to burn down, and we fuel locked it at like $1.70, and then when we get down further into the mountains, drive around for a while, come back. If we go to a service station, it's $2.10, we pay $1.70, so we just use the fuel lock. Okay, definitely worth doing. Now, tip number 4, click and collect. So depending on the type of accommodation, we're going down using pretty cheap accommodation. So we don't have any food provided for us when we get down there. So we are going to buy our food on the way. Now, if you get your food down there at Jindabyne, there are supermarkets down that way. You can definitely get food there. The choice isn't as varied and the cost is more expensive. So it's definitely something to avoid. You want to go get a classic Woolworths or a Coles or an Aldi or something like that beforehand. Now, we've driven down, we've just been on the laptop using Hotspot, and we've done a full click and collect for Cooma, which is an hour or so from the snow, hour and a half from the snow or so. So you're getting pretty close, so your frozen goods and that aren't going to go yuck. But if you've ever tried to stop and then do a shop and think, oh yeah, I'll be able to get it done in half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that, it's not going to hold me back, it just never happens. Okay, it's an hour and a half easy too for a family shop, especially because most of these rural shopping markets don't have very many people working at the counters, and most of the people working at the counters are old and they're very slow and talkative with all the locals. Okay, that's just the way they are, there's nothing wrong with it. So you will do a huge family shop and you'll be stuck there at the counter for longer than you're even in the shops to begin with. So we've just organised a full click and collect, bought everything on the way down, and we're just going to stop in at Cooma on the way through, pile it in the car, keep on motoring along. And the added benefits of Cooma, other than its location, is that the Coles and the Woolworths sit either side of a big park, which has a really decent playground. So it's a chance for the kids to get out of the car, they can have a play and a run around while one of you goes and does the shopping or collects the shopping. And it's also just a good, lovely little park and space if you want to time it in with lunch, which is usually what you get to do. Okay, tip number 5, and that is don't make the mistake of hiding all the important clothes. Now, you won't believe how many times I've done this, where we've actually kind of left for the snow, and it was 17 degrees when we left our house this morning, and it's 1 degree in Thredbo at the moment. So you leave the house and you're in your clothes for your drive, and you get down there and you're like, it's all right, we'll get there, we'll pull the stuff out of the bags, and then we'll spend a little bit of time getting our gloves on and our shoes and changing over to the better shoes and everything like that. But then you get there and you get out of your car, your fingers instantly freeze, the kids instantly start complaining, everyone's freezing. Now my youngest son, who's in the back here right now, he is wearing his soccer outfit. I warned him about this, I told him everything I just told you, and he has chosen literally the coolest clothes, the clothes designed to run around in. They were sitting in the back here in shorts and a t-shirt and his sneakers, and it's going to cause all kinds of havoc. So I prepared for this. We've packed a separate bag that has all the warmest stuff in it. It's at the top of everything that's in the boot. So as soon as we get there, it's just easy to pull it out. So don't forget to do that. Can't recommend it high enough. Okay, tip number 6. Waze, as in W-A-Z-E, the Waze app. Okay, this is something that you want to have handy on you. Now this is, if you haven't used it before, it's just like Google Maps, except it's user generated, and it'll allow the users all the way in front of you, people who are using the app, will identify when there are police ahead of you, or speed cameras, accidents, even just cars pulled off the side of the road, anything that's useful information like that just to help you drive along. Now this is an advocation for speeding, but I know what it's like. You're driving in the car and frequently your kilometres are going like this, unless you're focusing on the speedo constantly, which is dangerous in my opinion, you're going to end up wafting in and out. So, and there's roadworks and things like that you've got to deal with as well. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of where the police are. The last thing you need is to get pinged going a couple of k's over the speed limit, especially on a long weekend or a holiday when you get double demerits or something like that. It's the last thing you need. Anyway, tip number 6 is stopovers. So what I like to do, what we do on most of our trips, is that we will ski to the last day, right up until the end of the day, drop all our high gear off at the end of the day, and then take off back towards home. The reason is because the accommodation in the snow and around the snow is so damn expensive that you want to get that last day of snowboarding in, but you don't really want to get that last sting on the accommodation front. Now, you can gun it back if you're in Sydney to drive from Thredbo or Jindabyne or that area back to Sydney. Is a trip I've done many times late at night. It's fine, it's not great, you're usually pretty damn tired by the end of a week's worth of snowboarding and skiing, and you got your whole family in the car. So since I started having the kids involved, we kind of started doing stopovers. Now, we've done it a couple of different ways, but usually what I like to do is just find a little farm. There's a couple of farms between the Snow and Cooma, or between Cooma and Canberra. It's not too far up the road, it's just kind of getting you out of the Jindabyne, out of the Alps, and it gets you kind of a bit far down the road, but not too far that you're starting to fall asleep. And you can usually get one for around $200-250. But this and the kids love it. You know, there's usually animals to feed, and there's usually big places, and it's always warm and lovely and atmospheric, and it's great. This time we're trying something different. On the way back, we're actually going to stop over in Canberra and stay at the Novotel. So I'll do a little video on that separately once we've done it. And then we're going to spend 2 nights there. So we're going to turn that trip a little bit longer, spend some time in Canberra. I don't know what we're going to do. We might do Kosciusko, or do some museums or galleries, or just this particular hotel has a heated pool and a spa, so we might just relax and let the boozers and brums come out. But anyway, that's the idea, is to pre-plan some sort of stopover on the way out of there, and instead of paying that last night's big wad of accommodation to be on the snow when all you're going to do is wake up in the morning and leave, just get a little bit further up the road, and you're not paying for any extra hire time, and you're not paying for any extra accommodation. And my final tip, which I think is tip 7, I haven't been counting too well. Tip 7 is just make sure you've got some good beats, so you can listen to music all the way down there. I'll put a link in the description to a awesome track list that I created. I think it could be the best playlist that's ever been created. It's my humble opinion anyway. And I'll put a link to that below so you can listen to that on the way. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Those are my tips for driving from Sydney towards the snow, but just as useful from anywhere in Australia towards the snow. I hope they were a help. Chris Stead, check you next time. Bonus point 8, is that you better be prepared that your car might end up freezing in weird places. We've had our doors freeze, we've had our window wipers freeze. You probably see people with their window wipers up when they park their car. It's a good idea. We've had the seals around the doors kind of stick, so you can't open your door. It feels like it's locked, but it's not. Even had the fuel line freeze once. So what you really need is just a nice warm, not too hot, just warm liquid to just kind of chill it out. And it turns out you've got some inside you just for that need.